Well, the government shutdown is forcing the Federal Reserve to make its latest interest rate decision without the full picture of how the U.S. economy is faring. The ongoing shutdown has suspended most of the economic data that the Fed relies on, and that includes the Labor Department's jobs report for September, which should have been released in October.
It's not to say that we don't know what's happening with the U.S. economy right now, but we would have a much better idea and a higher degree of confidence if the federal government were operating and releasing the data that we're accustomed to getting.
Karen Caifa joining us now from Washington, D.C. So, Karen, what other insights did the Fed offer into where they think the economy's headed?
Well, the Fed in their statement this afternoon, Joy, said that inflation is still a little bit higher than where they would like to see it. Of course, they're going for that target rate of 2%. The last report we got from the government had it at 3% year over year, but they're not too concerned about that coming back down. They feel that there are some temporary factors that eventually will hopefully bring it down toward that 2% level. What they're really looking at right now is the job market. And Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell talked about this extensively, about some of the data that they used to kind of gauge where the labor market is right now, but also looking at it in terms of a softening right now. They said across the board, they are seeing things like low fire, but also low hire, which makes it frustrating for job seekers. But at the same time, there are no alarm bells ringing that indicate that unemployment is about to spike. But it's certainly something that the Fed will keep watching as they move forward, Joyce.
And without that government jobs data, the Fed and businesses, they can look to a few other sources when it comes to the labor market. So what do other numbers tell us about finding a job right now?
Yeah, Powell was asked about this by reporters this afternoon. What did the Fed do without the government jobs report to gauge the health of the labor market? And he said the other tools at their disposal include things like state unemployment rolls, also announcements from private companies about layoffs, Amazon and Target most recently, for example, and also private sector data, things like the ADP report, that payroll processor report that comes out and tells us where jobs are in the private sector. We did get that number earlier this week, and ADP found that hiring did grow over the last month, but it was very, very tepid. So again, it goes into that narrative of what the Fed is seeing in the labor market: low fire, low hire. And in terms of assessing the labor market overall, Powell says they're going to keep looking at things like mass layoffs, and that could make the unemployment level spike. But right now, he says unemployment is actually relatively low, but unfortunately for job seekers, so is hiring.
Yeah. Karen Caifa in D.C., thank you.